Welcome back to the channel. So today I kind of wanted to give a little rant about what it's like to actually own real estate. So for those of you who are new to my channel, I own 90 units of real estate, single family homes, two apartment complexes, and a mobile home park. And I did that within a 5 year window. So I started investing back in 2017. At that point, I just paid off $250,000 of student debt, and the next logical step was to, buy real estate for a place for me to live in. So my intent was to live in the master bedroom and rent out the other bedrooms. So that's called house hacking. For those of you who are new to that concept, but basically, the goal was to live in the master bedroom, rent out the three additional bedrooms for $1,000 each. That includes utilities, they were furnished, includes internet. It basically includes everything. And that got me $3,000 a month. And that actually was enough to cover my mortgage. My mortgage was around $3,000. And I just had to pay for the property tax, the insurance, utilities, internet, HOA, and that came out to be about 1,500 bucks. So I basically got to live in a 4 bedroom, 3.5 bath house in an appreciating market of California, the Bay Area, and I just had to pay 1,500 bucks a month. And a lot of it was just paying myself, right? Like I was paying myself. It's a forced savings account versus when you rent, you are paying someone else and you are helping pay off their loan and their expenses. So that was 2017. Bought the house for 825,000. Bought it during the winter months, so it's a little bit slower. And I put 20% down, and at a 4% interest rate, and that was my first step into real estate. So from there, I actually got a job at another location in San Francisco, and I couldn't make the commute. So, once again, I just thought, okay, well, let me buy a house, live in the master bedroom, and rent out the rooms again. So that kind of led me to my second single family home. In San Francisco, it was kind of makeshift duplex. So, once again, I lived in the master bedroom um, on the upper unit, and they had two additional bedrooms, which I rented out for 1,200. And the lower unit had its own separate entrance, and it was a 2 bedroom, 1 bath, and I rented that out to actually four college students. The property was nearby two colleges in San Francisco, so there's a lot of students there, and that's how I was able to, I think, collect around 5,200 a month in rent, and once again that covered my mortgage. I only put 10% down actually, so I had a larger loan, and from there, it kind of, once again, I was living there pretty cheap, right? Like I just had to pay property tax, utilities, insurance, internet, and got to live in a high expensive market of San Francisco, and I got to pay myself, right? So, kind of fast forward, I repeated that house hacking process a third time, and I would just keep my prior rentals and rent those out. And, from there, I pivoted to out of state because I wanted, more cash flow. And from there, that's when I started looking into Alabama, Oklahoma. Kind of fast forward, I purchased, 80 units of an 8 month window, believe it or not. So, starting in, I believe, May of 2021, all the way to May of 2022, that's when I bought, two apartment complexes in Oklahoma and one mobile home park in Alabama. So, I had massive scale. And, the rationale for going out of state was in California, it's expensive here. The average price of a home was, $1 million to $1.5 million. And, you know, it, it's really hard to cash flow if you were to own it and rent it out. You'd be lucky to break even. For the most part, it's more of an appreciation play, right? Like the first single family home I bought in 2017, I bought for 800,000, and you fast forward to today, it's probably worth close to $1.3 million. So that's $500,000 of appreciation. So, I thought to kind of balance my portfolio, California, it's all appreciation, not much cash flow. I just thought, okay, let me look in the Southeast where it's more focused on cash flow and not so much appreciation to kind of balance each other out. So that's what kind of helped me stumble across Oklahoma. I had a great property manager there, and it just blew my mind that I could buy a 26 unit apartment complex using direct mail for $500,000. I got a 20 unit apartment complex for $350,000. And, keep in mind, my 26 unit is currently grossing around $13,000 a month, and there's 7 vacant units. If it's all rented out, you're talking about close to 18K per month for something I bought for $500,000. And I put probably close to $300,000 to renovate it, so you're all in for 800,000. And same thing with my 20 unit, right? I bought for 350K, put in 100,000, and gross rents is around 9K, right? With 90% occupancy. So and then can I say over my mobile home park, like I bought for $1 million to own 200 lots. It's 55 acres. Huge upside potential. Obviously, when I got it, only 20 lots were occupied, and I doubled it to 40. But once again, I was like, wow, I can own this asset with high upside, and for $1 million, which is less than a single family home in California. So been doing that for I think the past year. I haven't bought anything since May of 2022. So had to kind of take a break to stabilize my portfolio and to finish renovations, rent it out, and get some cash flow before buying more properties. It's not good to scale too rapidly either, right? Because if you scale too much and you're pumping a lot of money for renovation, and you're turning tenants over, it's hard to really cash flow. So what I kind of come to realize is my story is definitely amazing. 80 units in 8 months. And on top of that, I had, a two other additional properties under contract, the RV park, as well as a 50 unit apartment complex. But, those fell through out of escrow during due diligence. But if I bought those, I would have easily bought over 100 units in less than a year. So, sounds great to say, but kind of some realizations that I kind of come across, after owning 90 units, um, for over a year now. And if you were to tell me like 3 years ago that I'd own 90 units, then I would think that I'm retired. I can leave my day job as a pharmacist, and I'm just like living good, right? Like basically hit fire. But I feel like that illusion is definitely painted a lot, in podcasts, and for good reason, right? You want to get inspired to do it, but as going through it myself, like there's definitely a lot of hardships, a lot of stress, and a lot of ups and downs, right? Like when you're going through the renovation, renovation always costs more than expected. When you take over an apartment complex, people leave, they stop paying. When you take over a mobile home park, same thing. Due to the type of renters or homeowners you're dealing with, they may not be the best tenants, and they definitely take advantage where they won't pay if they know they can get away with it. Or during COVID, it was hard to evict, right? So people would know that, hey, if I don't pay, you can't evict me, and they're giving emergency rental assistance. So they just say, well, I'm applying for this, but it would take sometimes like 3 months for me to get the money as the landlord, right? So people were definitely taking advantage of the situation. So when going through all this, you got to make sure that you have adequate reserves. And then another key thing, which I never was hit with to the past year, was just staying resilient and staying mentally strong. Like I said earlier, there's a lot of ups and downs, a lot of highs, a lot of lows. And it gets stressful, right? Like if you're renovating apartments, if you're dealing with issues on a daily basis, it starts to compound. And keep in mind, I'm working at W-2 still. um, I renovated 40 units in 1 year, and this is the first time that I am doing renovations. Like when I bought my single family homes, those were turnkey, move in ready. But when I bought the apartment complexes, mobile home park, these are all required renovations. So, going through that learning curve of doing renovations, going through that learning curve of owning an apartment complex for the first time, going through the learning curve of owning a mobile home park for the first time, learning curve of dealing with multiple renovations and multiple things, right? Like, so, it was definitely eye opening. one thing that kind of hit me was, like before I started scaling real estate, I was very happy go lucky, kind of went with the flow, was joking around. But I'll be honest that the past 2 years when I scaled to 90 units, I kind of lost that a little bit because you're just so your head is down, you're just focused on like putting out fires, and you kind of lose some of that happy-go-luckiness. As I'm kind of reaching the end, of stabilizing my 2 apartments, and the process of selling my mobile home park. It's starting to come back a little bit, but it definitely made me realize the importance of just health, right? Like, what do I need to do to make me the most resilient to stress and issues and problems that arrive? When you own 90 units, a lot of problems arrive. When you're a pharmacy director at a hospital, you're putting out fires every day, right? So, what do I have to do to make sure that I'm ready to handle whatever problems are thrown at me, right? Like, you have to be in peak state at all times. So, for example, what I did for the past year was, I used to work out, to show off that, hey, I can bench, 205 pounds, right? But as I start scaling my real estate portfolio, fortunately, uh, going to the gym and working out took a back seat. Kind of COVID played a role in that too. But I was just so focused on growing my business, my real estate portfolio, and just scaling. So it was definitely eye opening to me. And I went to the gym for a different purpose. Before it was to work out to look good. Now it's to work out just to relieve stress and to give my mind a break, right? I found the importance of sleep where I need at least 8 to 9 hours of sleep a night. So, I used to be a night owl, sleep at midnight, wake up at 7 a.m. or 6 a.m. But now I try to sleep around 10 to get at least 8 hours of sleep. If I'm like really exhausted one day because, I had a lot of issues to deal with, then, I made sure to get 8.5 to 9 hours of sleep. So I became a lot more cognizant of my body, my mind, like what it needs, right? Like if I'm really exhausted mentally, I just know that, hey, you know what? I got to go home, sleep early, take it easy, right? Or, I listen to a lot of podcasts, but if I'm like mentally exhausted, I say, you know what? Today, when I commute to work, I'm just going to drive in silence to give my brain time to rest and to kind of help me have a clear mind and kind of solve some of the issues and problems that I have, right? Another thing too was, kind of doing a morning routine. Like I, do light exercise, some stretching. I start my mornings in silence. I do a little journaling to kind of hit bullet points of things that I realized and kind of the mindsets that I had. And it's kind of cool to look back, in the future, looking back at my journal entries to see what my mindset was, right? And another thing too was just being healthy, like having a clean diet. Like now that I'm in my 30s, fast food's not as enjoyable. I mean, it tastes good, but you feel terrible afterwards, right? Like if I eat Taco Bell, McDonald's, I feel so sluggish now. So, making sure my diet's clean and balanced, right? You have fruits, you have vegetables. And one thing I stopped doing was overeating. Like I used to always overeat, during lunchtime, and I'd be in a huge food coma and I basically wasn't very functional afterwards. But now instead of eating a huge lunch, I'll just eat until I'm satiated so that I don't get a food coma. I feel full and I can still function at a high level. Right. So, the next thing is like taking vitamins. Like, despite eating healthier, there's just a lot of things that I don't eat that supplement my nutrition. So I take like, multivitamin on a daily basis. I take vitamin D supplementation because I don't get much sun, and that helps boost your mood and boost your energy. And because of my day job, I'm inside all day. I'm probably low, and I need to replete it to make sure that I have an adequate energy and mood to function at a high level. Another one is vitamin C. That helps with oxidative stress and it helps reduce inflammation. Right, like when you're constantly under stress. Your body is undergoing inflammation. When you're working out, your body's undergoing inflammation. When you're constantly pushing your limits mentally, physically, emotionally, it's causing inflammation. So I take vitamin C to kind of help reduce that. Another thing I'm taking is magnesium because magnesium helps you relax, right? It helps you relax your muscles, relax your mind. It helps you kind of take it easy, right? So I take that because I'm constantly stressing myself, pushing myself to the limit. I gotta make sure my body's probably using more magnesium than needed. So because of that, I need to replete it, right? Like if you're constantly using your brain, which I am, between my day job and managing my real estate portfolio, that burns the most energy, right? So making sure that you're constantly eating, you're staying hydrated, drinking water, and doing all that. So for me, I also cut out a lot of alcohol. Like I used to drink alcohol. I'm a light drinker, anyways, but I used to drink alcohol, and then to kind of take the edge and stress off me. But now I don't need it as much, right? And it helps me stay fresh, right? I don't stay up as much late anymore because I feel groggy the next day. So I'm just a lot more cognizant of like how to make sure my body's in peak condition so that I can handle the stress of owning 90 units, right? Like, don't get me wrong, if you own 90 units, it's a lot of hard work, but if you put in that hard work for the first 3 to 5 years, it can lay a financial foundation for the rest of your life, right? Like for context, once I sell my mobile park and I stabilize my two apartment complexes, which is 46 units. At that point, I'm gonna be grossing around $28,000 to $30,000 a month, right? And if you assume at that point, half our expenses, 15K expense, that's 15K of net operating income, and minus your debt service, that's 10K a month in passive income, which is basically replacing my income, right? And I did that in roughly 2 to 3 years with my current portfolio. So, to be able to replace your job in 2 years is a crazy feat, and it's not going to be easy, right? It's not going to be easy, but if you kind of surround yourself with the right people who are doing what you want to do, constantly educating yourself and, keeping yourself in peak mental capacity, that's how you do it, right? That's how you change your financial freedom, right? That's how you get freedom. That's how you get options. That's how you can leave your day job. That's how you can pursue your true passion, right? Like for me, what energizes me is teaching and providing value to people and helping people achieve financial freedom and, mindset shifts, right? Like I'm really big on mindset. Like you're just going through constant negativity when managing your 90 units. And sometimes I didn't believe at first, but you need positive affirmations to remind you that despite all these failures, you're still a great real estate investor, right? I'm great at what I do. I'm a great real estate investor. My decisions are good. Um, this temporary pain will help me become better, right? And it is. Like I've never gone through this much stress before. Buying in 2017, it always went up. Like 2017 to 2021, real estate just skyrocketed. In 2022 to 2023, when interest rates started going up, that's when it kind of slowed down a bit, right? So, that's how you kind of need to do it. And, just take one step at a time. You basically have to fortunately, cut out a lot of things, right, during this season of life. Like, I definitely sacrificed, a lot of social interactions with friends. I definitely sacrificed, like drinking alcohol. I definitely sacrificed, going out and partying. I definitely sacrificed my happy go lucky attitude. I definitely sacrificed some sleepless nights of constant stress. There's definitely strain on your relationship, because you're going on stress, and indirectly your significant other, your spouse, is going through stress too. So, there's a lot of consequences, but, I feel fortunate that I'm doing this now when I'm still young, before I have kids, before I'm married, and I can lay this foundation for myself in the future, right? So when I do have kids, when I am married, I can kind of maybe take my foot off the gas and step on the brakes and pause, right? Like and scale not as 80 units in 8 months, but maybe 80 units over 5 years, right? So, I definitely have the systems in place, the tools in place, and if I just keep on doing it, it's going to compound. And, it gets easier and easier, right? Like the more I do it, the better I get at it, and the more mistakes I make, the more I learn from it. So, that's what's key is, this takes sacrifice. It's not going to be easy. It's definitely not passive initially, but once I own these apartments for like 5 years plus, at that point it's autopilot, just making sure that the units are rented out, routine maintenance. If you renovate it, nothing major is going to happen, in the next couple years, having good reserves, building multiple streams of income, and creating systems and processes to make you succeed. So that's what it takes, right? It's not going to be easy. Like pharmacy school wasn't easy, medical school is not easy, any job's not easy, right? But if you can do real estate, it gives you the options to, retire. And, like a lot of people show off that they retired in like 2 years from real estate, but it really depends on your situation, right? Like, do you have a high income W 2? It's gonna take longer. Like for me, it's gonna take longer to replace my income versus if I was working minimum wage, right? It's also, if you have kids in a family right now and you're trying to scale real estate, it's gonna take longer, right? But if you give yourself 10 to 15 years to do it, you can achieve whatever goal you set, right? It's not gonna be easy. It's gonna be a struggle, but if you can do it, then great. Like I'm trying to do it in 5 years, which is why it's even harder, right? So the key is to get started. The key is to get educated, and the key is to try. Right? Like sometimes you might try real estate and realize it's not for you. That's okay, right? You can learn to vet syndicators and get the benefits of real estate, the tax benefits as well, and without being hands on. Right? So like everything, the more knowledge you have, it compounds. So that's kind of my goal, right? Like if through my videos you learn that, hey, this is not for me, or you try one and realize it's not for you, then great, right? Like now you know how to vet like a syndicator, and now you know how to vet someone who's good at what they do, right? So it's not for waste. And real estate is gonna be there, right? Like I think we're shifting towards a renter's market. Fortunately, as things go up, people can't afford it, and it's actually cheaper to rent in California than it's to own. Like I actually rent in California right now because I move jobs frequently, and it just doesn't make sense right now to own a house. But later it definitely may. Like next year or so, I may look to buy a house, right, for me to live in, with my girlfriend. So it just really depends what season you're on. It requires constant self reflection and reevaluation, and it's okay to like ask people for help. Like even me, like I ask people for help. Despite owning 90 units, there's always something for me to learn. And it's nice to just surround yourself with like-minded people to know that you're not in this alone. There's going to be struggles, there's going to be ups and downs, but hey, you have the support of a community, you have supports of friends, and just know that like sometimes your family may not support you, some of your close friends may not support you. They'll be jealous, right? It's common, it's human nature. So, hopefully you found value from this rant, and, please subscribe to my channel and check out my other videos. Thank you so much.